welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today is September 10th, a day after my due date. So if you are watching this around now, I still have not had the baby. She is too comfy inside apparently and does not want to come out. So I've just been trying to stick to what I've been doing, and I figured might as well wrap you up on the last 5 reads that I've read. I've had a really, really interesting, weird reading week. Like, I feel like I don't know what happened this past 5 books, but you'll see. So I ended up picking up The Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is a young adult historical fiction novel that I had heard about somewhere, either on BookTube or somebody posted it on Instagram or somewhere where I saw it, and I was like, I have to read this. And this has to do with Greek mythology in addition to like World War I. So it takes place like around where like World War II would start. So like we find Aphrodite about to like look like she's having an affair, or like she looks like she's about to have an affair with Ares, and her husband shows up and is like, I caught you finally, like I'm going to bring you back up to Zeus, and we're gonna have a trial, and you are going to be found guilty for having an affair on me. And she's like, wait, let me tell you my story about love and how like love can go through like the transcendent power of love, I guess, because she kind of tries to tell them that like nobody actually loves her and that she's actually a lonely person for being the goddess of love. So it kind of goes back into where World War I takes place, and we follow four people, essentially 2 couples, 2 like love stories, but 4 people, and it kind of alternates with like the Greek gods telling their point of the story. So Aphrodite obviously tells the love side, Ares talks about the war, Hades talks about death, and so like it kind of like intermingles all of that. And I found it to be okay. I didn't like that it says like set in the perilous days of World War I and II, because technically World War II was like never in this. Like I kept being like, this is a really chunky book. World War II's got to be like halfway or something. And it wasn't. I found it to be just an okay read. Like it wasn't really great. Like it didn't stand out, but it didn't like disappoint me either. I don't know. It was just I gave it 4 stars because I felt like it did have that unique perspective of like the Greek gods. So like I kind of gave it a star just for originality, but probably if I didn't give it that star for originality, it probably would have just been a 3-star read for me. It was fun reading about World War I though, because of the fact that I don't know too much about World War I. I feel like we have so much historical fiction based off of World War II, World War II, World War II, that it was nice to have something set in World War I. So yeah, it was different. I'll leave it at that. Like, I feel like I'm just, like, rambling, because it was definitely something that, like, was different. Just wasn't something that I ultimately loved. After that, I picked up The Gifted School by Bruce Halsinger. At this point in my reading, I was like, I feel like I should be getting some of my fatter books out of the way before baby comes, because I felt like I'm not gonna have that opportunity to really sit and read like the things that are kind of more meatier than something like a loose romance. So I was like, I should get through some of my thicker things. So I picked up this one. I had heard this compared to Big Little Lies, and I can see why, but it was very weird. Again, it follows this town in Colorado, and they're about to get this gifted school built, and it's like a magnet school that's funded by the public, so it's not private. It's going to take kids kind of like from 4 different school areas, and you have to like pass a certain test to get to this next stage, and then you have to do like a portfolio in order to get into this school. So you kind of have to prove that you're a gifted child to get into the school. So of course it causes a lot of chaos and issues between families in this district, because they think that their child is really smart and they want their child in this school, and then you've also got people who don't necessarily want their child in this school. It's got a lot of weird drama in it, where I felt like it was very dull and very, like the first 100 pages, granted I was having a really rough day that day, but the first 100 pages were really hard to get through. There's a lot of characters involved. But finally, once it started, like, it would get to a point where I'd be like, this, nothing's happening, this is dull, and then they would be like, boom, like the author would like dangle something in front of you, like, here's some drama, keep reading, and then you'd kind of keep going, and then they'd be like, here's some drama, keep reading. So like it was very bizarre. There's a lot of weird things that happen in this book, lots of crazy stuff. The ending was kind of, it came as a shock, but it also felt like, how did we get to this point? The author also makes his characters kind of hard to relate to in some senses. Like, I felt like I didn't fully know them as characters some points. Like, there's at one point where I was explaining this book to my husband, and I was like, it's so strange because some people have 5th graders going to 6th graders, and some people have high school students, and then all of a sudden I found out that almost all of them were 10-year-olds, like the 5th grade going to 6th grade. I was like, oh, but they didn't read that way. Like, I felt like I was reading that they were in high school. Like, there's a set of twins who play soccer, and I could have swore they were in high school until like almost 100 pages into the book, and I realized, wait a minute, they're 11. So like, it was very strange. It was a very weird reading experience for me, so I did not necessarily love it. I gave it 3 stars because I found it to be okay, but it just, another very strange book. Then I continued on with something that I was like, oh, after those 2 like kind of heavy books, I'm going to go for a light book. I deserve it. I'm going to treat myself. So I picked up A Mother's Confession by Kelly Rimmer. I have been seeing a lot of things about Kelly Rimmer lately, so I was like, you know what, I've had this on my shelf for a little while. I'm going to finally try it. And I figured, oh, I felt like it was going to be like a Diane Chamberlain-esque kind of story. And it wasn't. I gave this book like 2 stars. I like really should have DNF'd it like 1,000 times, but I kept pushing myself through it because this book has so many 5-star and 4-star ratings on Goodreads that I was like, I need to just like force myself through this. Like, it's got to be worth it by the end. And it just wasn't. It follows this woman, and so we follow 2 perspectives. One of the perspectives is a woman who was married to a man who ended up committing suicide. And we're kind of seeing how she's coping with it. She's trying to raise her daughter. She's trying to come back kind of into the world because where they live was like a very close-knit community in Australia where like everybody knows everybody's business kind of thing. So she's kind of been like a hermit for like the past few months, and now she's finally trying to like make gains for herself. And then it follows another perspective, which is the husband's mother, but it kind of goes back to like when she first gets pregnant with him on. And I liked Olivia's perspective. Olivia's story definitely kept me intrigued and kept me going. I don't think if I didn't have Olivia's story, I think this would have been awful. Olivia is the woman who was married to the guy who killed himself. And then, but Ivy, his mother, was torturous to read about. I will say that there was some domestic abuse in this book, so like if that's a trigger warning for you, I would stay away from this. And I felt like Ivy's perspective kind of promoted it. You found out why the husband really was the way he was because of this mother, and I felt like reading her perspective made me cringe. Like, I hated it. Like, I was like, this is like, it was always the not my son kind of attitude, and like that her son could do no wrong. And it really, really bothered me. And I was hoping that it would kind of come full circle, and I felt like it never really got full circle. And I can't. Like, I don't know how people, knowing how like politically correct and things people have been lately, like, and knowing about triggers and trauma and stuff, like, I don't understand how they let this book go and let this book be 4 or 5 stars. Like, I wished I liked it, but I couldn't do it. It was not a good read. After that, this is so sad. I read The First Mistake by Sandy Jones. You'll see in my vlog what happened to this beautiful looking book. It was gorgeous. I just hauled it. But unfortunately, I left it downstairs with Minnie for about 10-15 minutes. We ran to the store really quick. There was this book sitting out, and a book that Patrick's aunt gave him that she thought he would read. So they were all sitting on the table. She's been really good. I just talked about how great she's been doing, about how she hasn't been really eating a lot of things, so we haven't been having to dog proof as much. And we came home to her eating this one. If she ate this one, I wouldn't have cared because I'd already finished it, and I probably am going to unhaul this anyways. So I'm really annoyed because I would not want to unhaul this book, and now it's gross. So I have to either wait to find it on sale really cheap or just suck it up and repurchase it. Luckily, I got it from the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale, so I didn't pay full price for it. And it was still readable, so yeah, dogs. So the first mistake is, I just totally forgot what it was about for a second, is about a woman who is kind of going through life. She's on her second husband. Her first husband 10 years ago disappeared in an accident, so he's dead. And she's now remarried. She has her daughter from her first marriage, but she also has a daughter from the second marriage. And things are starting to go a little wonky for her. Like, she's always never had a really easy time getting over her first husband. But now things are starting to turn up that she's starting to question her current relationship. And she's just trying to really figure out what's going on with that and stuff. It's hard to talk about it because it's a thriller, so I went into it knowing nothing, and I kind of appreciated knowing nothing. I gave this 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this thriller. It read really easily. It flowed very nicely. It had lots of twists. It had lots of turns. It kept me guessing the entire time. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because one of the biggest twists at the end I predicted pretty early on in the story. But I don't know if that was just me being a close reader or what, because I was talking to Shelby and she didn't really see it coming. She kind of guessed it, but not as much where I guessed it. So it's predictable in that kind of sense. There are some things that you could probably predict, but there were definitely twists in here that I did not see coming. And I don't always love the cheating trope and all that stuff, but this one I felt handled it well and did it well. So like I said, 4.5 stars. Don't want to talk too much about it because, like I said, I really enjoyed going into it knowing little to nothing. So I think that you would as well. I look forward to reading more by this author and giving possibly her debut novel a chance, because I kind of put that one off. That was The Other Woman. And then if she writes anything else, I would definitely pick it up because this one was really good. And I will be repurchasing it once I figure out how I want to do that. And then the last book I won't talk too much about, but I read the illustrated edition of the third Harry Potter book, Prisoner of Azkaban. This is my fourth read of this book. I read it when I was a child. This is the only one that I read as a child, and then I've reread it. This is my third time rereading it since, because I read it when I read the series to begin with, and then when I bought the pretty paperback edition and now the illustrated edition. I just felt like this was one of those books that I should also read before baby gets here, because I could just plop it open and just devour it, which I might not get that opportunity very often in the next year or so. Also, the fourth one comes out in October, and I didn't want to own 2 of them unread on my shelf, so I was like, now's the time to pick this up and reread this. So, reread it. I think it's really interesting to see what the movie included and what the movie didn't include, and what I like best about the book and what I like best about the movies. There's definitely some things that they took liberties with in the movie that I like a lot better than how it was handled in the book, but then there's things in the book like the whole Quidditch world, the House Cup, I can't speak, the Quidditch tournament that takes place in this. I wish this was in the movie. So it's interesting. So I always forget about that until I reread it. I'm like, oh right, that stuff was in this book. So I'm really excited that I finally got a chance to read this, because I always feel guilty rereading things. So I'm glad that I took the opportunity to read that. And yeah, so those are the last 5 books that I read. I'm sorry I'm starting to get winded. I don't know what I'm planning on reading next. I've got a couple ideas, but we'll see. Still on baby watch. You guys will know when she's born, because I will post it on Instagram when she's born. But no news as of right now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys around. Bye everybody.